The U.S. Religious Landscape Survey is a path-breaking survey based on a nationally representative sample of more than 35,000 Americans. It will provide very reliable estimates on the size of religious groups in the United States, including some of the smallest religious groups. But more importantly than that, it provides us a new basis for analyzing the demographic characteristics of these groups, their religious beliefs and practices, and their basic social and political values. We think that the U.S. Religious Landscape Survey will provide a new basis for a better understanding of the very important role that religion plays in the private, personal, but also the public lives of most Americans. The landscape survey was a massive undertaking. Imagine 35,000 interviews. This took place over a period of time. Even though we used two major survey houses, it still took a significant amount of time to conduct and then also to analyze all of this very, very rich information. So we are indeed releasing it in more than one stage. This first report is going to focus on the basic religious affiliation of the American people. And it will provide an analysis, an estimate of groups that are as small as 0.3% of the American public. We will analyze the various demographic characteristics of these groups, their economic and educational levels, their age composition, their nativity. There's a lot of immigrants who are part of this survey. We will look at the regional distribution of these various religious groups. So there will be a very rich demographic analysis in this first report. We also cover some very interesting aspects of religion in this country, which I think are one of the highlights of this report. And that's the extent to which Americans are on the move religiously. This is an incredibly dynamic religious marketplace, and we carefully document the shifts that are taking place in American religion. People will be surprised at the extent to which the high percentage of Americans who tell us that they're a different religion today than they were when they were a child. Everybody has to scurry to retain their members and to gain new members. And everybody indeed is losing members and gaining members, although there are net winners and losers in that competitive game, and we carefully document that in this report. We also document the fact that it's not only a very dynamic religious marketplace, but a very open religious marketplace with new entrants coming into the game, more specifically the high number of immigrants who are coming into the United States, who are helping not only to change the balance within Christianity, because the majority of American immigrants are Christian, but also adding significant diversity to the American religious landscape. Well, having done the analysis on the basic makeup of the United States from a religious standpoint, we will then in the spring release the other findings of the survey, which will focus on the religious beliefs and practices of the American people, but also their social and political values and views, and the relationship between their religious practices and beliefs and those social and political views. Coming in the context of an important presidential campaign, we know that this will be of great interest to the American public. When we put all this together, that is to say, what we found concerning the affiliation of these groups, their religious beliefs and practices, and their social and political attitudes, we'll be able to put together a series of portraits that will give everyone a very nice look at the composition of these various groups. So we believe that will be a very, very interesting feature of this whole exercise. We undertook this study because despite some very good research that's out there on American religion, we thought that there were still some gaps that needed to be filled. For instance, the estimates of many of these groups, particularly the smaller ones, are highly contested. The religious beliefs and practices of many of these groups also are blank slate. We just don't know enough about them. And it's also the case that there is little solid data on our newer faiths. So we thought that given the increasing diversity of American religion, the great dynamism of its faith communities, and the pervasive presence of religion in American public life, which is, after all, what we're about at the Pew Forum on Religion and Public Life, that it was important to try to nail it, to try to get a much more precise reading of these basic questions. The forum's landscape study is unique in two major ways, in its depth and in its breadth, and particularly the combination of the two. First of all, with respect to breadth, this is a survey of over 35,000 Americans, which again is quite impressive in its scale. It not only allows us to make precise estimates of the smaller groups, or more precise estimates of these groups, but also to analyze them in a way that is not possible when you have surveys that are not that extensive. In a typical survey, even a good-sized survey of 2,000 to 3,000, you simply do not get enough of the smaller groups, maybe a dozen or two, and you cannot make statistically valid conclusions based upon that. The landscape survey provides us with a new basis for making reliable and up-to-date conclusions with respect to those groups. It also is more in-depth when it comes to religion. We provide a battery of religion questions that allow us to determine not only whether, for instance, a particular respondent is a member of an evangelical church, but whether they're a member of a Baptist evangelical church. And not just Baptist evangelical church, but what type of Baptist church? Are they Southern Baptists? Are they Independent Baptists? Are they Primitive Baptists? This survey then goes in great depth at analyzing the religious affiliation of the American people. So we believe that that combination of depth and breadth makes the religious landscape study a very unique survey.